Hello again. It is Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network, taking you into the garage area and talking to the folks to make these race cars go around the racetrack. I'm Steve Post, pit road reporter for Motor Racing Network, joined by 25-time and championship-winning crew chief Todd Gordon. Hello, Todd. How are you?
I'm great. I didn't have to stress through Talladega last weekend. Don't have to worry about what's coming forward with the Roval.
You and Rudy Fugle living life large, right? Exactly. And now
Jonathan Hassler.
Yeah. How about that? Boy, I love the mantra. Winning at Talladega or Daytona takes luck. Well, if it takes luck, how come the same guys do it? And there is a skill set to this. And Ryan Blaney and everybody at Penske building these cars, they have that skill set down pretty good, especially at Talladega.
Yeah, definitely. I've got a few of those Talladega
You've got a few
trophies.
of those too.
I got 4 of them, so I got one more than Blaney.
There you go. See
somebody brought that up to me this week, but what a great run for those guys. And the Ford made a body change in the off season. They moved kind of into a more efficient position and put them in a great position going speedway racing. And we saw that. Saw the Fords look good all day long. Jonathan called a great race. I thought their car had a ton of speed. Ryan was able to push whenever he needed to. And you saw that. He pushed on Kevin Harvick for a long time. At one point, and I went back and rewatched this, but at one point he and William Byron were back like 17th, 18th. And they made a charge forward. They came from 17th or 18th to first and second in about 3 laps.
Wow.
But Blaney just locked on the bumper of the 24 car. His ability to push all day long, his car had a ton of speed in it.
We noticed he wasn't the only Penske car that pushed, because Austin Cindric, man, I'm telling you what, you wanted Austin Cindric on your back bumper. We were keeping an eye on that 2 car, and Austin Cindric was a pushing son of a gun out there. That's for sure.
Yeah, especially to recover to a top 5 finish from being a lap down and getting the free pass on I think the last caution or something like that.
Yep. No doubt. We have, when it comes to the big picture of the playoffs, of course, Jonathan Hassler and Ryan Blaney moving on. Rudy Fugle and William Byron, they're long checked into this thing. You got to feel good coming out of Talladega if you're Denny Hamlin, Chris Gabehart, and our guest today is going to be Adam Stevens. We'll ask him how he feels about it, but Adam Stevens, Christopher Bell, to not only survive Talladega, but to put yourself with a little wiggle room at the Roval, you got to come out of there. That's got to be a moment for these teams.
Yeah, definitely. Knowing that they were involved in a situation early, got damaged, had to work their way through that, just kind of made the most out of the day from that point forward. Didn't have the day, they got some damage, but they got it fixed. They finished. They got their objective done. They come into the Roval plus 22 points. I think that's a good position, especially knowing that we've got stage cautions coming back. Yeah. So I think that'll change up the amount of points that people make. I think it changes the strategies on what people do coming to the stage ends. 3 to go. Yeah. I think we'll see cars on pit road. I think we'll see different agendas. Be interested in what Adam says about that.
Flip the script, that's for sure. So Adam comes out of there good. Survival mode, and it was interesting to me because there was no big movers. I guess Kyle Busch maybe, but there was no big mover. Chris Buescher lost 2 points, finished 19th. Martin Truex Jr. lost 2 points, finished 18th. Now Larson did gain 13 points, finished 15th, but we had those guys in the top 20 that came out of there pretty good, which not what you're looking for. You don't go to a race to finish 18th, but you got to come out of here thinking, okay, boy, it could have been a whole lot worse.
Yeah, it could have been. And even Ross Chastain, as big of a penalty because they got they got caught up in that wreck at the end of stage one.
Yeah.
So really a no points day. One maybe, but. Enough guys finished back there in the late teens that it didn't end up leaving. He's still 10 back.
Yeah.
My thought is that really the last 5 cars are racing for that one spot.
So
we'll see where that plays out.
Because points the way it plays out, and again, a catastrophic problem for somebody obviously changes everything.
I think Larson's 7th right now at plus 15 or something like that.
Larson is 15 above the cut. Yeah, he's 7th, 15 above the cut.
We'll see where it plays out, but you've got a lot of really good road course racers in that I'm going to call Denny Hamlin through. He's plus 50. I just don't see that happening this weekend.
Yeah.
But Christopher Bell won here last year. Chris Buescher, pretty darn good road racer. Martin Truex, put some really good road races
racing,
together.
yeah.
One at Sonoma.
Yeah.
I think everybody back there.
Yeah, Larson, Truex, and Buescher are all 15 to 19 above the cut, and they're all really good road racers.
Yeah, so
and
I
good
think
teams keep the car on the asphalt, and
be interesting to see where it plays out.
well, I think that's going to be the fascinating part, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on when we kind of preview it, how it does play out with stages and everything, because the stage breaks are back at the Roval. So
we brought the cautions back, and we've changed the restart zone.
Yeah,
see where that goes.
Too. Fun stuff. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about that with Adam Stevens, crew chief for Christopher Bell, and see what his take is on all of the things coming up Roval. Want to mention this before we step away, and then we'll get to Adam. If you like what we're doing here on Motor Racing Network with our programs, whether you're listening on Spotify or watching on YouTube or on MRN.com, share it, like it, subscribe. Those things just help grow what we're doing here and give us a chance to even do more stuff. We got some fun stuff in the pipeline here across MRN. I know that we're working on some projects, but subscribing and sharing and liking and rating and reviewing all really matters in this era we're in. So we appreciate you doing that if you like what we're doing here on MRN's Crew Call. So let's do this. Let's step away. When we come back, Adam Stevens from over at Joe Gibbs Racing, he joins us next. Welcome back. It is Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network. Todd Gordon and Steve Post. Let's go to the hotline. Joining us from over at Joe Gibbs Racing, crew chief for Christopher Bell on that number 20 Toyota. Adam Stevens joins us. Hello, Adam. How are you?
Hey, gentlemen. Doing well. How are you guys?
We are doing well. Adam, 14th at Talladega, 22 above the cut line. You'd like to be further. You'd like to be locked in. There's a whole lot of guys not. What's the relief factor with that wild card race in the mirror?
Well, so many things can go wrong at Talladega. To get out of there with any kind of gap to the cutoff is a good situation. Last year at this time, we were well below the cut and put ourselves in a must-win situation. So, we're definitely not in that now. But, how many points do we need to score? It depends if we have a bottom four winner or not. But certainly having any kind of gap, it gives you some margin to work with.
And you talk about that. We're going to the Roval. And we're going back to having stage cautions, which I think kind of changes up the total amount of points that guys can accumulate, because now you make that decision between the two. How do you feel like that's changed what that margin and your comfort of that margin? You're, I think, 22 points above, 20 points above Brad if you do have one of those bottom four winners. But that has to put you in a little better comfort zone, because it's tough for guys to put together 55 points, right?
Yeah, that's true. It definitely makes the guys with a margin a little bit better space, because you have to pick if you're racing for stage points or if you're racing for the win. I would say that, high likelihood those things are mutually exclusive this weekend. And I don't like that. I liked it better when there were no stage cautions, because we intend to run up front and do both. But in our situation for this particular instance, I think the point totals are going to be down. There's going to be a lot of guys that run well, that have, 30, 35 points, and a lot of guys that take the stages and take the sure thing and maybe finish mid-pack, and they're going to be high 20s, so it's definitely not looking like 50-point days for a lot of guys.
Yeah, I think you brought it up. You were in a must-win position last year, and really in a situation when JGR as a whole on road courses was weak. I just call it what it is. I didn't feel like you guys were that strong as a whole, but you ran top 10 all day long. I felt like you ran 5th, 6th, 7th. Really was kind of a bright light there and a great call late. And who scored the most points last year, and how many was it? Might have been you at 40, I believe.
It's possible.
I looked it up, but that's what it was. You have to feel good coming off of that, knowing you guys have made your program better and you've got a little bit of knowledge of what that place takes to win.
Sure. We felt like if we did our jobs to the best of our ability last year, that we could have, 6th to 8th place speed. I think you were a little bit generous in your assessment there. And then I feel like we were right in that 6th to 8th place window. And that's where we were running when that final caution came out. So, we had to take advantage of that situation. And thankfully, we got that caution. Without that caution, we weren't winning that race. It wasn't going to happen. So, that set up a strategy play. And let us put Bell in a situation where he could man up and get it done. But it's different times now. JGR as a whole is and Toyota as a whole, the road course program's a little bit stronger, and we've seen competitive speed out of the group, 2311 as well as JGR, just depending on which given road course event. And, we've been winning stages and running up front and finishing up front. So we should have the speed capability in our cars if we do our jobs when we get there.
How has the Roval evolved, Adam? And I know we've had a car change in the middle of it all, but racing on this infield road course is still rather new. I mean, we've been doing it for a few years, but we do it once a year. How has this kind of racing evolved, and how have you guys fine-tuned all of the operations there?
That's a great question. It's changed a lot. They've made some changes to the layout of the racetrack. The turtles were always a big thing, tearing up cars, and they deepened the backstretch chicane, which really slowed the cars down there. This new car is wildly different because you're tending to bottom out the shocks, and the things you need to get through the oval are different than the things you need to get through the infield section. And we don't have bump springs and bump rubbers and coil bound springs, things to control the ride heights like we used to. So you have a single spring on each corner, and when you bottom that out, it's an infinite rate when you hit that shock bottom. So, and we have a reduced downforce this year compared to last year. So it's going to make the oval quite challenging. And I think the compromises between what it took to be the best you could be last year and what it's going to take this year are going to be quite a bit different.
And we'll have a change, I think, in the restart zone as well,
yes,
coming to the Roval. How do you see that as a significant piece, or kind of mute here at the Roval?
I think it will be. I think, with the old restart zone and you were skipping that chicane, everybody was bunched up going into turn one and generally tempted to overdrive the corner. Certainly the braking marks were wildly different because you roll in there so much faster when you're not accelerating out of that front stretch chicane. And now, you're going to be hitting the gas with all the steering wheel cranked in it and that front stretch chicane, especially if you're not on that front row, and it's going to spread out very, very quickly. And I think you're going to see, you're not going to see 3 and 4 wide going through turn one. I mean, you might see 2 wide, but that should lessen the propensity for cautions down there in Calamity Corner. But I'll believe it when I see it, but it should.
Yeah. The other piece, it's a little bit of a caveat this weekend as I look forward in the weather. Looks like Sunday's going to be pretty cool. What does that do to how you approach the weekend looking at the weather forecast?
Well, it's going to change the grip level. But honestly, I can't tell you exactly what the grip level is going to be there anyway. We haven't run this stuff exactly. We haven't run this tire exactly. So, I don't think that's going to be a huge wild card. Rain would certainly be a wild card, yes, but, I think that it'll wick up a little bit on new tires. But fall off should generally be the same. But, guessing that grip level and knowing how hard you can go off the truck are a big part of what we spend our time on during the week. And it's what you have to do to dial in your setups. You have to have a pretty good feel for the grip level, but we're all guessing right now.
Adam, when we look at the playoffs, the performance that you guys have, you started the playoffs with a crew change, a pit crew swap, and you've obviously overcome some struggles with that along the way. And of course, we're in this weird Talladega Roval spot, but just overall playoff performance. What do you guys? What do you guys? Assuming we move on from here, what do you guys need to continue to do to get championship round worthy, beyond playoff worthy?
Well, the goal of the playoffs is to make it to the next round.
Sure.
You have to take it one race at a time and one round at a time. And you can't put the cart before the horse. And if you advance to the next round, then you check that box and it's mission accomplished. You can't dwell on the things that didn't go exactly right, or you can't really celebrate or dwell on the things that went exceptionally right. It only matters in the results. It's very different than any other time of the year. And, if you take a 3-race snippet of anybody's season randomly, 3 races in a row, it could look fantastic or it could look absolutely dismal. And the goal is to get to the next round and move on. So in that aspect, it's been pretty good. But in other aspects, there's some things we need to tidy up. We need to make sure that we're firing on all cylinders over the wall. And we need to make sure that we're unloading with a car that's capable and the balance is close, something that we can get in a tunable window. And we've been hit and miss on that. And but at the end of the day, the goal is to advance. And if we advance, we can kick that can down the road and grab that next vine and swing on it.
That's a good analogy for it. And unloading with speed, the first 3 races you sat on a pole. So I think you've done your job on trying to make sure you unload with something that's got a little pace with it. As you look at the whole piece and 22 points above the cut line, I know you won't put it there. You've got to go execute the race. I feel like you're P4 right now. I feel like you're in a good position coming forward. There's a chance that JGR brings 3 cars into the final 8. And for the company, that's exceptional. I mean, you not only did you get the 3 cars in, but they've continued their way through. How is that for you as a team leader? Because I remember as my days when I made it to Championship 4 and I was by myself, my whole organization focused on me. Does that kind of dilute things with all 3 of you being there, or is it better because all 3 teams are digging?
Oh boy. It seems like, you got to think now, back in the day, we were building our own cars.
True.
We were not at the mercy of the parts and pieces we were purchasing. Right.
Wow.
To make the absolute best body, you have to, uncover and look at every single body panel and underbody piece that's available to you, and if you're trying to spread that out multiple ways, there's going to be some compromise there. Oh boy. But so in that aspect, maybe it's not ideal. And that's different than years past where you were just down to man hours and craftsmanship and you could essentially produce, 3 or 4 of identical or to the best of your ability pieces. And I don't know that that's the case now. So, maybe 3's not ideal, but certainly you want more bullets in the chamber if you're JGR as a whole to get some cars to the final 4 and have a chance to run for the championship.
That is fascinating because I hadn't thought about the common car.
Yeah.
There's not as much you can do to massage on those things.
You only have so many body panels, right? and you kind of measure all those to figure it out. I hadn't thought of it in that way. Interesting tidbit. And I asked you the question to be selfish as a crew chief. That's that, and I apologize for that. But for the company, it's always great. I know RP was always about all of us getting through, but it was nice when I could get the best of it when I got by myself. You look forward this weekend, and strategy wise, pretty straightforward. You've got to short the stops for the stages, right, to put yourself in position to win.
If you're going for the race win, I think that's what you have to do. You'll have to jump both stages. If your goal again is to advance to the next round, maybe you take those points. If we have a 20-some point gap right now at the moment,
yep.
And certainly the bottom 2 in the playoffs right now are in must-win situations. But if you can expand that gap, then maybe you'd be foolish not to take it with a point lead already that we have. So we're going to have to assess that and see where we're running when it comes time to make that call and see which way we'll go.
The way the race plays out, you'll stop at stage 1. Stage 1. Maybe you could stick out and stay through because you've got stage 2 to try to flip yourself a little bit, and then you should have another stop in the final stage that falls somewhere in there for you to kind of strategize your way forward, right?
That's true. Yep. And last year we didn't really have any cautions until late at the end of the race. And we've been a trend here recently on the road courses where we're not getting a lot of cautions. So if that holds true, it could play out very similar to last time. And but if we start getting mid-stage cautions, that's going to really jumble it up too. So you can make all the plans you want, but when the caution starts flying, you got to adjust.
That's why you're the crew chief, and that's why we love watching what you do. That's for sure. Adam, we always appreciate the time. We certainly wish you well at the Roval this week and then out throughout the balance of the season. Thanks for joining us here on Crew Call.
All right, gentlemen. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
There we go. Adam Stevens joining us from over at Joe Gibbs Racing. Stay with us. More Crew Call in just a moment. Welcome back. It is Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network. Todd Gordon and Steve Post, and always enjoy Adam Stevens. He's just he's a great resource. Those of us that work pit road, he's a great resource in the garage area. You know, when crew chiefs and teams and drivers are doing things that we don't understand, he's one of those guys that we can always go and ask. And really, a lot of insight there in their approach to the Roval, and hopefully on throughout for those guys in a playoff run.
Yeah, definitely a great interview, a great resource, and a great leader, 2-time champion.
Yes, indeed.
And I think he's got more coming.
I think he does too.
They keep this pairing together. I mean, overall, Christopher was my championship pick at the opening of the season. He wasn't at the opening of the playoffs, but their trajectory is going. You've got to get through 3 races, right?
Exactly. I loved that answer that you kick the can down the road and grab the vine and go to the next one, because and he's so right about this. You can take any driver and pick 3 random races and say there is no way in the world
with this car.
Exactly. And then you can pick any driver and say, whoa, look at those 3 races.
Yeah.
If they can stack those 3 races at Homestead, Martinsville, and Phoenix, hang on.
And they don't even have to stack them. They can just put a Martinsville together as they did last year, right?
Like they did last year.
They did it to Roval. They did it at Martinsville to get to the Final Four. I think the Toyota road course program, it's markedly better.
Yes.
Tyler Reddick coming over, I think, had something to do with it. But
he certainly,
their program as a whole is really good. Their overall program, I think, they've got downforce, they've got good power, they've got good teams.
Yeah.
The Toyota program is in a good place, and JGR could have 3/8 of the final 8. We'll see where the weekend rolls out.
Well, and then you take the 2311 has 2 cars still alive as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So, the Toyota could be...
You could be half of it.
Yeah.
I don't think that both the 2311 cars get out of it.
I don't think so either. I just think
I feel like there's 5 cars there at the back that are racing for that last spot.
Yeah.
Because to what Adam talked about, this isn't a race with the stage break cautions.
Yeah.
You're going to have to decide how to flip this race, and it's going to cost you points. I don't think you're going to see a 50-point day for anybody.
You're not going to have someone do like McDowell did at Indianapolis, where it's just rack up stage points and stay right out front, just keep rolling right to the win.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be this flipping stages and flipping.
Now you know the caution's coming. You want to flip it. So it's made the amount of points that'll be scored. It's kind of muted that. It's taken that down some, which means that separation, 20 points, they're 20 points behind Brad Keselowski. So if there's an outlier winner, if Tyler Reddick wins this race, if Ross Chastain wins, if Bubba wins this race, or Kyle Busch, any of them could be, right? If any of them win this race, the cutoff now comes back to Brad, who's only 2 points above anyway. So that 22-point lead becomes 20. I still think 20 is a pretty big number, as long as I would look for Adam. If he's top 5, top 6, I'd look for him to stay out stage 1 and take and add a few more points to that cushion and see where it plays out from there.
Yeah. Stage 1, you might do that and then look to strategize stage 2 to get to, if you're sitting there in the top 5.
Everybody has a different agenda.
Yeah, that's
part of what's cool this weekend is that everybody does have a different agenda, and there are those that only have to win. There are those, there's 3 cars that don't have a care in the world. And I'll put Denny Hamlin in that group, because at plus 50, there's no way. There's got to be a mathematical way that it could happen.
Way someone can do it, but on the racetrack,
I don't see it happening.
Yeah.
I don't see it. And I feel like Chris Gapehart's got to feel good about it. Adam's right there behind him. Now he's 4th, but 22, but I still think Adam's in a decent spot. I'd
go back to Talladega, and you look at this, you look at the performance, the 3 guys that are locked in with the top 3 drivers. That to me, William Byron and Denny Hamlin specifically are likely to be factors in this race. They don't have to be factors, but just their performance over the last month, they are up front all the time. Mm-hmm. Why would it be any different here?
Yeah. And you look at it, if you look from Brad going forward, Kyle Larson, pretty good road racer.
Yes, pretty good road racer, yep.
Martin Truex.
Yeah.
2 top 10s and a win the last, one at Sonoma, 2 top 10s at Indy and Watkins Glen. I think they're in a good position. Christopher Bell in a really good spot.
Yeah, with the points, yeah.
I just won here last year. I think he's got potential there. And you talked about the 3 up front. That's
why you're thinking the 5 drivers racing for one spot.
I feel like it's Brad on back that are racing for one spot, unless something catastrophic happens early to one of those guys.
One of those guys up there toward the front. Fascinating stuff.
See what plays out.
The Roval. It'll be good, that's for sure. See what happens with it. No doubt about it.
Oh, I left Chris Buescher out. Also a pretty darn good road racer.
No, he's not a pretty darn good. He's a great road racer.
So I just think those guys that are above the line, I don't see a weakness in that. If they run normal races, they're going to be good.
Yeah. Keep it clean. Keep it on the asphalt.
Just becomes what happens the last 5 spots.
Yep. Be there at the end. Fun stuff. And that is going to be awesome. That is for sure. It is the Roval at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Our friends at Performance Racing Network have the coverage. It's the Drive for the Cure 250 for the Xfinity Series on Saturday. That'll be a good one. And on Sunday, it's the Bank of America Roval 400. 2 o'clock is the race time there. Gives us a chance to talk about some weekly shows here on MRN. NASCAR Live, our Tuesday night tradition where Mike Bagley and the cast and crew of MRN get together and bring all the stories. We've got so much there that we now have NASCAR Live wide open, which is our podcast edition of the show, which drops on Thursday. NASCAR Coast to Coast. Chris Wilner and Kyle Rickey talk about the roots of the sport. Wing Nation. A bunch of us talk about sprint car racing. And, of course, this is NASCAR Crew Call. And as we mentioned earlier, if you like these programs, share it on your social media and share it. Tell other people you like what we're doing here on MRN. We really do appreciate it. So fun stuff. Going to be a great race at the Roval. A good time, that's for sure. We appreciate Adam Stevens for joining us here on the program. He's Todd Gordon. I'm Steve Post. More important than that, though, thank you for joining us here this time on MRN's Crew Call.